Hey guys, if you haven't heard yet, I have decided to leave my guild progress. I'm making this video to explain why. Most of you have probably come to know me because of all the progress speedruns and world first runs that I've streamed over the years. People frequently referred to me as the face of progress, and for a long time, my channels have been based on my hardcore content, with the never ending goal of trying to be the number one guild in Classic. So I feel like I owe you guys all a good explanation on why I decided to make this decision, and also to save my sanity from being asked this question a million times on stream. So let's get into it. There isn't one reason why I'm leaving Progress. No one big incident or something like that. There was no sole reason that I decided to make this decision. It's many reasons piled on top of each other over mostly the course of TBC. There are four main reasons why, and I'll go into those one at a time, and I'll try to fairly and objectively explain them. But before we begin, I'd like to clarify that progress at the moment is led by two officers and four to six other, let's call them assistants. But it's mostly the two officers that I have the issue with. The officer team was completely replaced going into TBC. The old team wanted to relax. They had put in an enormous amount of time and effort to make progress into what it was during Classic. One of the most successful speedrun guilds and the most successful guild overall in Classic. We got Molten Core second, Blackwing Lara tied first, EU first for AQ, and then we ended it with Nax first. So their accomplishments were pretty significant, and they wanted to chill in TBC and take a break. So the other officer team was ready to step up and take over. Some of them had mm, previous experience in varying degrees in leadership in the guild, so they weren't like completely new to leadership or anything. Um, so I wanted to give that a little bit of context before going into the video. The first reason is related to the officer's attitude towards my stream and streaming in general as well. Just the whole culture around streaming. For a long time, Progress has been excessively paranoid and against streaming, and they limit it in any way they can. And honestly, I understand. For most of Classic, a lot of their concerns were valid. They had to be pretty careful. A lot of people constantly tried to grief us. We had to be careful. And I also understand, like, if you want to be number one, why would you give your competitors any edge over you by giving them information, by streaming for them? It's a little bit counterintuitive to trying to be the number one guild. So I do understand that part of it. It got to be a little excessive though. Progress never allowed any streaming of any type of practice run, even if it wasn't on PTR, even live practice runs, not allowed. Even if we weren't practicing anything secret or new, doesn't matter. Not allowed. Can't stream it. And honestly, I I was okay with this. I mean, it was part of being progress. Um, but an example of this is multiple times I even had to end stream mid SSC run a couple hours into my stream during farm runs because they wanted to practice Vash with a paladin tanking the Strider and dragging it really far out of the fight during the transition to phase 3 so we didn't have to waste time on our phase 3 transition killing a Strider. Exceptionally minor and something that would probably be copied the first time we use it in a speedrun anyway. So it feels really excessive. That's what I'm trying to get the point across. so many things in situations like this where it's just excessive. It wasn't necessary. And it really goes to show their mentality towards streaming in general. They just really never wanted to put up with it. We had that period in Next as well where they completely banned streaming speedruns for a couple weeks even. They wouldn't even allow basic, simple SSC trash pre-clears to be streamed right before our speedruns. Something that we literally didn't do anything special. Every other speedrunning guild did it, but still couldn't turn on the stream. Not until you were inside, just about to pull during the speedrun. And these are just a couple small examples of the very anti-stream mentality within the guild. And again, I always accepted this. It was a part of being in progress. It's part of being trying to be number one. There were frequently times when I defended this behavior, even though I was a streamer. But I wanted you guys to. I wanted to clarify this because I wanted to give you guys an example of the officer's mindset about streaming before we go into the rest of the video. The officers, they really, truly seem to hate having to deal with me streaming. If I stream at all, they've complained multiple times. They want me to be a zombie that doesn't talk, doesn't think, or have any opinions at all. And if I have any of those, they constantly complain about it. At every turn, all I got from them was frustration that I stream and that I wanted to stream. The constant vibe that I got from the TBC officer team was that they would rather have no streaming at all, and that it was a miracle they even put up with my stream in the first place. I find this really weird because at the end of the day, speedrunning is built by the community. We speedran back on private servers, and we had like one guild trying to compete. Our strats were rough and unpolished. Our comp was honestly horrible. The meta was the wild, wild west, and the viewership was pitiful. And also the hype and the effort that we put in was way lower compared to what we put in now. And why has this completely changed going into Classic? I I really think the answer is pretty clear. Because the community got on board and loved speedrunning since the beginning of Classic WoW. Even Molten Core speedruns. Honestly, Molten Core speedruns weren't super hype. They still got good viewership. And man, did it explode in Blackwing Lair. Everybody got involved, the entire community. Every DMF, everybody would turn on Twitch and go look for guilds to watch trying their next Blackwing Lair speedrun. Even the most casual dad guild would go and try their hand at a speedrun and see what time they could get. I generally truly think that it's the community that really made speedrunning so great. And the involvement all throughout Classic with the community was amazing. So I find it really, really strange that Progress is so against streaming. Because the community is what allowed Progress to push harder, and it made us enjoy what we did so much more, having the community enjoy it as well. I find it extremely weird that the officers had so much to gain from the community, but have almost zero interest in giving back to the community. They didn't want to stream for the community. They didn't want to be involved with it, is always the feeling that I got. Like even back in Max when we stopped streaming for a while, they said, we don't give a fuck about the community. And that's honestly always been the feeling that I've gotten from the officers, that they just don't care about the community. And my stream has also been a massive contribution to the guild in many different ways in terms of publicity and helping the guild grow. A good example of this is our most recent T6 run. We probably had about 5 to 6 almost brand new players in the run, not just recruited, in our T6 World First run. And most all of those players have watched my stream before joining and had been long-term fans of Progress. But do you really think my stream had nothing to do with any of them joining? I personally don't think so. I think my stream has been a great contributing factor to recruitment and publicity for Progress, something that the officers never give any credit for. And all I ever got from officers regarding my stream was pushback, annoyance, and at best, tolerance of it. And honestly, it's really taken its toll. And that's probably the first reason. That about sums up the first reason of why I decided to leave. All right, let's get into the second and probably by far the biggest reason why I'll be leaving Progress. A while back, about halfway through T4, Progress had a click. Very, very classic situation in World of Warcraft guilds. They all left the guild. It was very sudden. All of them decided to leave together, and their reasoning was that Progress officers allowed racism and hate speech. Uh, their main complaint was one or two players. And after the clique left the guild, the officers, after initially giving them a warning, decided to fully remove them from the guild as well. Um, I won't disagree that they kick they broke the guild rules, so it was a justified kick. They broke our rules against racism and etc. We have a lot of pretty strict rules in the guild regarding racism and stuff like that. With my knowledge of the situation, though, I believe a stern final warning would have been more appropriate, and that a kick was unneeded. But I digress. This isn't the main point. I'm just giving you a little context to the situation. The major issue with this incident is when the officers decided to kick a third player. At the start of Classic, he started going by the name of Redacted. After the clique left, they decided to make up some honestly complete and utterly bullshit lies about him. I don't know why. They had previously been friends with him, so it's a very weird situation. Uh, for his privacy, I'm not going to go too into detail on the accusations and stuff regarding him. But if you trust me at all, just believe me when I say it was complete bullshit. He was one of the nicest guys that I've ever known and a good friend of mine. He had been in Progress since the inception of the guild, even before me. I joined about a month after Progress was formed on private servers, and he had been there since the beginning. He was a true Progress member, and he had done so much for the guild. He stepped up to be warrior class lead when no one else was willing. I was busy with my stream and I couldn't do it. Literally, no one wanted the job, and he stepped up and he did what was necessary. And for most all of Classic, he was the warrior class lead, and he was also an officer assistant in TBC for a while, if I remember correctly. He had done an insane amount of work for the guild, and just like me, he put his heart and soul into it for even longer than I had. But in the end, The officers gave in to pressure from the people who had already left the guild, and they removed him. He had done nothing whatsoever to warrant a guild kick, especially considering his 4 to 5 years with the guild. No warnings. This was a complete backstab, and he was even friends with the officers in the guild. The entire situation was completely disgusting to me. This incident is probably the starting point for all my future issues with progress. It made everything else that I had to put up with in the guild and deal with that much more annoying. It really made me start thinking about every decision the officers made and everything they said. It it really soured my view of the guild, I think is what I'm trying to say. I should have left when it happened. And to this day, I still regret that I didn't leave Progress the day that he was kicked. I was very vocal within the guild about my displeasure about this situation and what happened. I constantly criticized the officers over it, and a couple times I even talked about it on stream to a degree, which of course made the officers very angry and further disliked my stream when I used it as an outlet like that. Alright, so let's go into a couple of the minor reasons that I quit. Not nearly as big of a deal as the last one, but still big annoyances of mine. So during T4, officers only cared and they only focused on the T5 World First run, in which we knew we really wouldn't use very many warriors in. So they decided to completely focus on T4 splits for gear, and hunters had priority on stuff like DST. They even went as far as banning us from making our own in-house Kara speedruns, which me and a couple other members of the guild wanted to start setting up. They wanted to make completely optimal splits, so they couldn't even let us speedrun Karazhan on our own. And as soon as we won the race, we stopped doing T4 content as a guild. Officers couldn't give a fuck about it. They didn't want to manage it, they didn't want to deal with it. And we knew that at some point there was going to be a melee shift, and we needed to have our melee geared. For example, I mean, we even ran 2 DPS warriors and an in-hand shaman for our T5 speedruns. And again, I ended up playing Fury for Tier 6 World First. And there's a very, very high chance that it ends up being at least a 2 physical group setup for T6 speedruns. And Melee just keep getting better over the course of the expansion as well. So to not have the foresight to plan ahead and think about this at all is weird to me. And they thought that we should have to go pug for our DSTs. And it wasn't the officer's responsibility to get runs together, which I think is ridiculous. Having to pug for important BIS loot in a speed running world first #1 competitor guild is a ridiculous concept to me. I had to do that a couple times in vanilla. I had to pug for Blackwing Lair for my chromatic boots and buy them in a GDKP. I had to pug for almost all of my AQ40 loot. So this situation happening again was a pretty big annoyance to me. And the only reason that almost any melee player in Progress even has a DST right now is because a player that goes by the name of Lash joined Progress. He solely carried almost every single melee on his back by creating hard res pug runs every single week for multiple Progress melee players. He usually did, I believe, about 3 per week of Gruul hard res runs, and then a couple runs for himself to make money. Um, Without him, Progress probably wouldn't have a single DSD on any melee and would not have been prepared for any type of a melee meta shift in speedruns or world first runs. And regarding this, another incident that happened during the T4 situation was that leadership who were doing only 3 or 4, I can't remember how many grill splits we were doing. We could have been doing a lot more. T4 was boring and we really weren't doing anything else. They wouldn't even let us speedrun Karazhan, as I said earlier. And somehow, in this handful of raids, 3 to 4 splits, we don't have a DST soakers in one of the raids. And it goes to a rogue. Now, the rogue in question, I have a good friendship with. I like him a lot, and I don't think he doesn't deserve loot. He's a very good player, is valuable to the guild, but the problem is, it went to a rogue. It's not the player that it went to, it's the class. This is a serious speedrunning guild, and there will likely never be a rogue spot on any world first or speedrun roster, unfortunately. So how does this happen? How do they fail at their only focus for the tier, which was doing T4 splits? The consequences of this anti-melee mindset that has been prevalent in the officer team in TBC, and the main officer is, of course, a caster warlock player. The consequences of this is that I played all of T5 speedruns and the T6 world first race with no DSD, one of the most important items for Fury. I think this situation is pretty ridiculous. Alright, and the last reason. Warglaives of drama. I'm sure a lot of you are curious. Tetsu, did you quit progress because of glaives? No, I didn't. It was a small part of the reason, in a way, but I want to point out before I get into this, I had prio on glaives in my own split, starting from this week going forward. If I stayed in the guild, I would have gotten them. I also had prio in the world first run, as I was the only Fury DPS in that run. So I'm literally up for glaives if I stayed in the guild. It's not the reason. Now, the reason I am mentioning glaives, though, is because I have a bit of frustration regarding the post the officers made about who was getting glaives and in what order. They stated that the first 4 would go to me and 3 other players. And keep in mind, we're also running 3 splits at the moment, not 4. And this would be in preparation for a slight shift in meta towards more melee and speedruns. They listed how the first 2 people deserved them and they did a lot for the guild, which I don't disagree with. But then they went on to say how me and the other guy, we were never really happy playing other classes. We didn't really do a lot for the guild. And they essentially inferred that we really didn't deserve glaives over other people in the guild, but I was a speedrun warrior in a speedrun guild, so we had to prio them to me and that other guy. I'm just not going to use names because there's no point. Um, this came across to me and the other warrior as a massive insult. I tried to talk to the officers about it and what they meant, and during our discussion, they essentially doubled down on how many other people deserved them more, and that even though I was a valuable member of the guild, I didn't really deserve them or do enough for the guild, which I think is completely ridiculous and honestly a slap in the face. That type of mentality and attitude towards me was infuriating. I've been in progress for 5 years. I was warrior class lead for pretty much my entire stay in progress on private servers. I was warrior class lead for the first part of classic vanilla as well. I've been the #1 and by far most consistent warrior throughout all of classic. I put my heart and soul into this guild throughout private servers and classic vanilla. I created and managed our world buff summoning network and our Discord, and constantly helped get secret summon spots for war chiefs and set up infrastructure to make sure everyone in the guild would always be able to show up with war chiefs to our raids, even our farm raids. The only reason I stopped doing leadership work is because of my stream. Uh, I decided to start prioing that instead. doing both at the same time is it's pretty hard to manage. But instead of bringing value through helping with leadership, I started bringing value to the guild through my streaming. I truly think that my stream has been immensely helpful to progress in terms of the publicity that I've brought into the guild and recruitment. My stream has brought us so much talent over the 2+ years that I've been streaming now. And I don't think you can deny this, that it's been very helpful for recruitment. I tried to talk to the officers about this, and they honestly just didn't acknowledge any of it. And instead, they tried to misdirect all my concerns and make up lies about me for why I didn't really deserve glaives and stuff that I didn't do for the guild and how I've been a drag on the guild. I refuted every point that they tried to make, and every time I refuted one of their points, they just misdirected the conversation to something else. They complained about how I trashed my guild members on stream, which is completely untrue once again. And they finally backed down on that point, and instead they shifted towards saying that I was trashing the guild in general, which this part was actually true. Probably one of the only true parts. I've been very frustrated with the guild over the last few weeks and used my stream as an outlet to complain, which, to be fair to them, that really wasn't the right way to go about it. And I am sorry about that. Uh, I kind of, I kind of regret it. I kind of don't. It felt good, but it was an immature way to go about it, even if I was right or wrong. But after this talk, I realized that continuing my time in progress was never going to get better. The officers were never going to change their mind about me or my stream. Nothing was going to get better. They wouldn't acknowledge any of my concerns that I tried to bring to them, and so I finally got the courage to leave the guild. Something that I should have done months ago, halfway through T4 when they kicked Redacted from the guild. So that's pretty much it. Those are all the reasons. Some were minor, uh, some like the Redacted incident, were was by far the biggest reason for me quitting. That entire situation really disgusted me. Uh, so what's next for me? Honestly, I'm not sure. I'm gonna keep streaming, obviously. Um, I might try my hand at some YouTube content. We'll see. Um, I'm gonna keep blasting with Space Force. Throughout all of this, Space Force has been my shelter. It's been the place where I really truly feel at home. They've been friends and family to me. That guild is the truest sense of a family that I've ever been a part of. It's such a good community. And honestly, one of the reasons why I've probably finally left Progress is because of the night and day difference between Space Force and Progress. It's so clear every time I log in for a Progress raid and every time I log in for a Space Force raid. I just feel so much more comfortable with Space Force. So, as always, I'm going to keep blasting with the boys in Space Force. I'm probably going to level 2 more characters up. I'm not going to rush it, but I'm going to finish out my Paladin. I'll probably boost a Feral Druid and start playing more on NA. I will try to keep up with EU though. Uh, I would like to keep playing my Warrior. I really haven't decided on anything EU yet. If someone offers me to come raid with them on my Warrior, I don't know, maybe I'll do like one EU raid a week. We'll see. I'm honestly really not sure what's in store for that. But I don't want to completely abandon the human male, right? That'd be that'd be a shame to put him to rest. So I hope I can find something for him. But yeah, I hope this was a good explanation. And thanks for all the boys who have been with me for the last 2 years. Uh, I will see you on my stream. And thanks again for all the support, guys.